Okay, today we have a vintage air system going on to this very nicely old restored Chevy here. And so what do we got? We got a Chevy old 3100, and they're putting in a vintage air system. Hey, look at their original way. When I was a little kid, we used to all have this on my grandparents and parents' cars like that. You always had to carry your ID there. So there's the vintage air unit. Let's take a look underneath. This is the heater core and the air conditioning, and as you can see, there's a load of ducting going all over the place for your air distribution. So you have ducting here, there, over there. You got what goes up to the windows right there, and these little slits right here, and then you have floor. And looking at this, first thing I noticed as I drove up and I told I was going to be doing this vehicle, first thing I noticed, I know, okay, these are, because I know these from a kid, these are hardwood floors. So what I mean by hardwood floors, old plank floors. So you have these beautiful restored nice plank floors, right? Beautiful, really like it. So, and you come underneath, and what should catch your eye here is these beautiful floors. He used zinc steel. He should have used stainless steel, but he used what he got. But what do you notice? What is this right here? What's this? Exhaust. And where is this exhaust letting out? It's letting out under the vehicle. And under this vehicle goes right up to that floor, and it is not airtight. It breathes. So this is a occupant, where the people, you're a driver, you're a passenger. The exhaust is letting out under the middle of the vehicle. When you go down a road under circumstances, as air flows over the car, you draw a vacuum in the back in some vehicles, and you can actually draw the interior of the car into a vacuum at lower pressure when all the doors and windows are closed than the outside atmosphere. So this becomes a vacuum cleaner with air letting out the back, becoming negative. Well, what happens when you're a vacuum? It tries to equalize. Well, all these cracks are right here, and the exhaust is letting out, especially when you're idling at really slow speeds where the air is not carrying the exhaust out the back. You have exhaust coming right up through the floorboards into where you, the human being, are going to be sitting and breathing. Many people died of carbon monoxide, but not directly. They fall asleep from getting tired and then crash by going off the road or going across the embankment head on into traffic because they got drowsy. And they weren't drowsy because they were tired. They were drowsy because they killed themselves with carbon monoxide. First thing I brought up to the mechanic who was helping restore this thing, and this is something I was taught as a child with my father, because he was from back east, where they do annual inspections for safety and looking for rust holes because they salt the roads. And before I even looked at the air conditioning, I immediately ducked under and looked at the exhaust, because I knew what the floor was made out of. I knew this is a contractor who's rebuilding this, you know, somebody who's not he's not mechanically thinking of everything. And so you have this deadly situation here. Now let's go to another one off the air conditioning. Okay, vintage air. We have our parallel condenser. We have our high side pressure switch. I'm about to crimp the crimps. We're making up the hoses right now, and you can see this one's already crimped. This is not crimped. And here's my crimping tool, and this is like the third. I've worn 3 sets of these things out. I've literally made thousands, if not tens of thousands of hoses back in the early 80s on and hoses. I would buy 500 and 1,000 foot roll spools, multiple roll spools, me and my brothers and my dad. That's how many hoses we used to make. But let's think of another thing here. When you're restoring a vehicle and it's like an old vehicle, this is an iron block, iron heads. The heater core in there might be a copper with brass headers heater core inside, but they wanted this racing, you know, big, nice aluminum radiator. So what's wrong with having iron, copper, and aluminum all mixed together? Well, you get major galvanic electrolysis going on. And so this is a brand new restore. And the first thing what caught my eye was, I go iron block, I know copper, aluminum, copper, you know, heater cores, and we have a regular plain Jane cap. This is a stainless steel with steel cap on an aluminum block. First thing I did before even starting or doing anything, I checked this for him. I looked at this and I go, yep, it is all electrolysis city going on here, just eating this up. And this is brand new. And this is what happens when you use regular coolant that you would normally use in an American car, but now we have aluminum added into the situation. And so this is what you get, brand new. Well, can you imagine what the freeze plugs look like in this thing? And now I told him, you see this? You might have a high efficiency heater core inside this new vintage air unit. And if you have a high efficiency heater core, it has small passages like a parallel flow high efficiency condenser. So you're going to have that rusty, cruddy coolant passing through this brand new heater core, plugging it up like that. No time at all. So I told them before you even, well, I think they already ran it. They're going to have to back flush it. I told them, if you do this, if you I call it intentional because it's just lack of knowledge of basic physics, basic science, basic engineering, that not knowing what happens and what causes things and rapid failures. So what you would do is you'd take your coolant line and you would go to a big rig, a heavy duty diesel truck place that does semis, and there's inline spin-on filters that you could put in your coolant system. So you'd put a spin-on inline coolant filter in your system, and it's like an oil filter, but it has a zinc anode in it. And with the zinc anode in it, the zinc sacrifices itself so the metal doesn't inside the system when you have dissimilar metals. And I think in this situation, if I was doing a restoration for the heating to take care of the heater core and everything, I've done one of two things. Since everything is brand new, you either go with one, never put water in the system or coolant and go with the waterless system. That's one choice. It doesn't matter if it's $45 or $60 a gallon for the waterless coolant. Or two, the brand new extended life Toyota Prius or Toyota's coolant, you know, the really 5-year, I don't know, 100,000, 150,000 or whatever it is. The newest, highest life Toyota, because you have all these dissimilar metals, but in conjunction putting in a spin inline with an anode to keep the system from sacrificing itself. And like you see, this is what happens when you don't understand physics. This is grammar school physics, grammar school science. This is stuff that you're taught, you know, before high school. And definitely when you take auto shop in, well, they don't have auto shop much more, but when you take mechanical engineering or you take automotive engineering classes, they teach you stuff. This is like 101. This is auto shop 101. And mistakes like this today, with all the knowledge that's on the internet, still get done. So my job today is finishing up making the hoses. Got some crimps over there. We just cut the hoses a few minutes ago, and some hose ends that were just cut off. Trying to route it so there's no problems with interference. I told them they're gonna have to double wrap and insulate if they're gonna put the hoses like this. Get another layer of some heater hose or something, zip tie it, put it. This is not a show car, so they're not doing all the fancy brackets, but don't let them vibrate like this. And don't let them, you got an engine that's gonna torque, so you gotta think that this compressor, when you're shifting, is gonna torque a little bit. Every day, this thing is gonna pull. So you gotta think of what direction the engine's gonna torque, and you have to leave enough slack in it so it doesn't yank on the fitting and snap the fitting. And we don't want rubbing up here like this. We don't want See right here where I make the metal touch here, you don't want that. You don't want rubbing like that. And anywhere you run rubber hoses, you do not want rubber hoses going over aluminum fittings, because the rubber wins. The rubber actually rubs holes through the metal. All right, so let me break out the tool and I'll do a crimp, and I need to free up my hands and put down my camera. All right, guys.